We believe. We believe.
We're seeing more and more evidence that there is tremendous power in having strong African American and Latino leaders in our schools.
Good to see you, brother.
The bottom line is one must be very intentional in how you develop, how you acquire, and how you retain those underrepresented populations.
Thurman, how you doing?
One of my quotes is like, people need to see their God. In that sense, they need to see their likeness in the people that are in places of authority.
Chicago, hometown of President Obama, the ultimate role model for all aspiring Black Americans. His achievement has galvanized the nation nowhere more than the Windy City, which has the second largest African American population in the US. The majority live on Chicago's South Side, a mainly poor, disadvantaged area. Among young Black men, 45% are unemployed, and the leading cause of death is homicide. Chicago's public schools have a major problem. Over half of all Black male students drop out of high school. There are 30% more Black males in prison than in college. Developing outstanding leadership representative of the school population is seen as the key to overcoming these statistics.
I grew up in this neighborhood. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I was lucky to end up in some schools that provided a better quality education than most of the other elementary public schools on the south side.
Shane Evans is a principal at a secondary school on the south side. He's one of the new type of school leader that the city is seeking to recruit.
We all need role models. Great teachers and great leaders can come from any community, any ethnicity, any socioeconomic background, no question. But there is something powerful about when a young man sees someone who comes from his neighborhood, or a young man sees someone who might not come from the neighborhood but shares their experiences, or at least share some adversity, or can understand or have some cultural competence. I think it makes a difference. It's an added benefit.
I think it's important to have representative leadership in schools, first and foremost, because it shows an appreciation for, a respect for one's culture.
What's up, Gerard?
Wash your hands.
Oh, you're always going to gym. Whenever I ask you what's up, you're, oh, I'm going to gym.
I think when individuals who are in a leadership capacity, it does an enormous amount towards boosting the self-esteem of those young people in that school community. Secondly, I think individuals who may aspire to those positions need to know that there are some real opportunities that exist for them.
The barriers facing aspiring Black and Hispanic leaders, particularly African American males like Shane, are numerous. Lack of training and recruitment, the costs involved, the selection process, and above all, the quality of education.
All right, young lady. All right, so you good? School often hasn't been a welcoming place to African American young men. If people seem to not respect your culture in the school, then why would you want to put yourself through that? And if you don't want to do that, then how can you go to high school and do well? How can you then challenge yourself to go to college, to leave your community, to be maybe the first in your family, to do some of the things that would be necessary to see success in the academic arena?
If you're an African American boy, 2.5% will have a four-year college degree by the time they're 25. That's beyond broken on some level. If 1 in 40 Black boys in Chicago are getting through college. So that's the first obstacle. The first obstacle is the quality of schooling.
Various strategies are being developed to remove other barriers like access to training and recruitment.
Let me say this first. The strongest comments come with an I statement. Who knows what I mean by that? Yes,
Joseph Schaffner is now an aspiring principal at a largely Hispanic elementary school. A high school teacher for 16 years, he'd never thought of becoming a school leader.
I came from a family of educators. My mother was a teacher. My mother was also a principal, but I never saw myself in that role because I never saw African American males in that role. And the reason is because you're speaking from whose perspective? From your own. So
for African American males, the training and support that would help support one's ability to really be a successful leader was lacking. I think that you have to be very intentional and you have to be very proactive. There has not been a focus on any sustained effort to recruit, train, and support so that those individuals could succeed.
Oh, 2 high five.
Joseph's former supervisor recommended him for Launch, a leadership program which is targeted at underrepresented groups.
Okay, take turns.
Another barrier to principal training is money. It can cost $30,000 to $50,000. Crucially, Joseph's course is subsidized.
What this program was able to do was to relieve me of my responsibilities in the classroom, allow me to focus on the responsibilities that would be involved in being a principal, focus on that learning component, and then produce somebody who was able to address the challenges that were inherent in that role. If you need leaders, it's like anything else. You have to invest in order to get them.
It's one of the things we do with summer principalship is to make sure that you're constantly giving teachers their written oral feedback, just as we've been doing since the beginning of the year.
As part of his leadership development, Joseph receives mentoring from the current principal. The program also helps him prepare for the principal selection process.
You're trying to get some people to see something they haven't seen before. And when people make choices, quite often they're looking for someone that looks like them. And they can't see someone else in front of their children or directing their school that they don't think they can relate to one-on-one, or that seems so different than what they believe a principal should look like. Being able to help a council visualize you in that role is a critical skill that you need.
To tackle the barriers of quality education and the lack of leadership candidates, the University of Chicago's Urban Education Institute aims to create a new model for urban schools. Central to that is developing a new type of school leadership, a school director who is primarily instructional rather than administrative.
Our view is that leaders need to be extraordinary instructional leaders. They need to be, to use the English term, they need to be head teachers, and they need to be able to coach and develop and mentor their faculties in very explicit ways. But because our schools that we operate are located on the south side of Chicago and serve poor African American children, we've also put a premium on finding extraordinary African American leaders. And that's very intentional. It's very explicit. We believe that that matters in a number of dimensions.
The university has set up 4 charter schools similar to academies in the UK.
If you're really serious about recruiting good people for this job, they're there. They may not emerge through the traditional pipelines. We're in a privileged position of operating charter schools, which has a lot more flexibility over who comes in the front door. And so the kinds of questions we ask teachers are not, can you show us your resume with your qualifications and your certification? They are, when you've faced adversity, what have you done about it? What do you believe is possible for these children?
Tanika Island-Smith is one of Tim Knowles' protégés. Now director of a charter elementary school, she was teaching in a successful suburban school when Tim spotted her.
What'd you make today?
I made a picture of my mama.
My experience is the people who aspire to be school leaders often are not the right people to be school leaders. The people who really are deeply passionate about the work of the classroom have to be dragged kicking and screaming.
Listen, Nyla's going to share, guys. If there was one job I knew that I didn't want, it was the job of becoming a principal or a director of a school. And I was adamant about that for years. I really enjoyed working with teachers and supporting teachers, coaching teachers, giving feedback, but I didn't want the level of, in my mind, of administrativia that came with becoming an administrator. But I came to learn that I really had a warped perception of what the role is, and probably a perception of a job that actually did exist at one point, but that we're trying to move away from.
That perception changed when Tanika shadowed another school director for a year.
As school directors, your primary role is to be the instructional leader of the building. You know, you will have an operations manager that manages the budget. You will have an office manager that handles a lot of the paperwork for you. We want you to focus on empowering teachers, making sure the instruction is aligned and that the kids are being taught well. Who can explain to me what an inference is?
Some of your own thinking into it.
You're putting some of your own thinking into it, and why is that necessary?
Because sometimes in the text it doesn't always come right out and say it.
So you have to use a little bit of what you know and add it to what you read? Our school is very different from typical schools in the sense that our teachers work an extended day from 8 to 4:30. We have professional development 3 to 4 times a week sometimes. So you know when you come to this place that you're making a commitment to be a learner. We know that our practice is public, which is not the case in most typical schools. Teachers are islands unto themselves and don't get in and out of each other's classrooms. Hey. Both groups that I chatted with, right on the mark. Great. Everyone could define what an inference was. Everyone could give an example of the fact and an inference and talk extensively about it. It was good. It was a good check-in.
Thank you.
Here we know that the goal is to push each other and to be a presence in each other's rooms and to give, constant and critical feedback and positive feedback as well. So you know you are attracting teachers that want to become experts at what they do.
Ready?
Yes.
The scientific names of those bonds.
Tanika's goal is to groom others for leadership roles.
So we have a phenomenal math teacher who knows that she's a really good teacher but is very shy. So I have been coercing her into the limelight in the building.
I think that she knows and thinks that I'm smart. And sometimes we don't feel smart in everything that we set ourselves out to do, but I just really believe that she believes in me. When you asked, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I can't do this. And you're like, yes, you can, you can do this, the potential is there. And so it was just a really big push for me. The support was there from you whenever we needed something. Tina and I, we could always come and talk to you. And that really, really, really empowered me. I believe that as an African American, that relationships are actually built off of trust. And when you trust someone, that then you then allow that individual that you're trusting to empower you because you believe that they have your best interest at heart. You're just steadily pushing. And so that's great. And I feel like I can do anything. And I tell you that, you just make me feel like I can do anything. I do.
You're an expert. You're an outstanding teacher. Thank you.
It's not on tape, is it?
Okay.